Well, hello. Welcome to Just a Thought. This is our Saturday discussion between the Reverend Cindy Lippert and me, Darrell Watkins. I'm the senior minister of the Sunshine Cathedral. Cindy is one of the co-founders and experts at sagecoachingandcounseling.com. And they offer professional and therapeutic and spiritual services. And during the pandemic, can even work out some sliding scale options for people who have been financially impacted negatively by the pandemic. So that's sagecoachingandcounseling.com. And I'm at sunshinecathedral.org, where you can go and find our daily programming that we have online, including our Sunday morning worship, which is live streamed at 10:30 Eastern time. You can make contributions, you can make prayer requests, all at sunshinecathedral.org. There's also information there. We have a memorial service today in Zoom for Jack Huizinga. He was a long-term member of the Sunshine Cathedral, a great supporter, just a really great guy. And so at 1 p.m. Eastern, we're having his memorial service in Zoom. And for information about how you can get into that, again, go to sunshinecathedral.org. So those are the PSAs. That's those are the words from our sponsors. Let's get into our brief discussion today. Usually, we start out with me quoting some brilliant and well-known spiritual guru, some great authority figure like Paramahansa Yogananda or Jesus or Buddha or Rumi. Somebody just huge, that just their very name makes you're just a better person for hearing the name even.
Or Cindy Lippert.
Or so I would only time that was next. If I said one more name, it was going to be Cindy Lippert. And but today our quote comes from the greatest of all prophets, Anonymous. I have no idea who said this, but that makes it no less wise. This was published in Yes Magazine, but published anonymously. So we have no idea what genius shared these words. I'm going to read the whole quote, and then I'm going to reread just the first sentence of it, because that's what we're going to focus on. But the great sage Anonymous says, "No matter what, whether it turns out okay in the end or not, you carry the divine within you. You are enough, not because of the things you do, but because of who you are fundamentally, intrinsically, always and without exception. Take a breath or two to allow yourself to know this. No matter what, whether it turns out okay in the end or not, you carry the divine within you. You are enough, not because of the things you do, but because of who you are fundamentally, intrinsically, always and without exception. Take a breath or two to allow yourself to know this." And then one more time, just that first part. No matter what, whether it turns out okay or not, you carry the divine within you. Something about that feels really good to me, Cindy Lippert. What do you think?
It immediately brings up the acting profession, of course. I know I talk about this all the time, but there's no greater teacher than going out on audition after audition after audition, and you don't get cast. Actors know this. We have a friend who's an actor on a rather big name series right now. We are told she auditioned 200 times before she finally got cast for one of the greatest recurring roles. And you would immediately know the name of the series. The reason she comes to mind is all those 200 times, was she doing it wrong? What did she do to manifest that? Things like that. She was doing it right, but she was the perfect puzzle piece, but she hadn't found the right puzzle yet. Mm-hmm. Casting directors know this all the time. They're in your corner. They want you to win. But it's like a crazy quilt, and you've got to be you may be the perfect piece for something, but maybe not that particular project. So actors know that they have to do the best they can, hone their craft, and keep at it, and not worry about, what did I do wrong, or, I'm not good enough, or give up. It's the same thing that's true in life. We will go along and we think, why am I still in this same situation? We don't know what great thing is being prepared that you haven't even come in contact with yet. You're being prepared for something. You are becoming an expert with something that's going to be needed down the road. And that's where faith is, that taking that step, even when there's no visible means of support.
I'm thinking today about people who struggle with depression.
Mm.
I'm thinking today about people who struggle with chronic illnesses, and some of these people, they don't choose to be hopeless. In fact, they are struggling, fighting to embrace some hope. Sometimes it's hard to do. And sometimes they are so afraid of false hope. I'm still not sure. I think I get why people, but I'm not sure I even believe in false hope, because hope isn't a guarantee to begin with. So I don't know what false hope is.
Right.
Just because everyone says this can't be done and you're still gonna help. Yeah, it hurts if it doesn't work out, but it was gonna hurt anyway. And if hope gave you a minute of relief, wasn't that worth it? So I just don't know if I even believe in false hope. But some people are very much afraid of false hope, and they don't want to give false hope, and they don't want to accept false hope. So I think I understand it. I don't know. I think hope is better than despair, but I also think it's mean to try to force your version of hope on someone who doesn't want it, or isn't ready
Yes.
for it, or can't embrace it, or whatever. So it's all a bit of a struggle. I know that I posted something on Facebook yesterday, and I have to be very careful how I word things, because Facebook monitors things very carefully now, and you can say a word sort of innocently, and they will flag it as political or social or whatever. And but I posted on Facebook yesterday about people asking for prayer for someone, a leader, and it took on one of those tones of of sort of, I'm more moral than you are, I'm going to pray for my enemy sort of thing. And I get it. We want in moments of crisis, we want to be our best selves. We want to see the best in others. We want to say, okay, we're going to put our, it's like the World War I soldiers that put down their arms and sang Silent Night. We want to be those people. We want those moments. We're going to put our arms down and sing together in this special moment. I get it. We want that. And there are people who, if they feel personally victimized, if they feel they have experienced some loss or oppression or injustice, to ask them to bless the person they hold accountable for their misery, that seems mean to them. And so I'm like, yeah, we want to pray for everyone. We want to wish everyone, if we're not prayers, maybe we're wishers. We want to hope for everyone to be well and happy and safe. Even the people we don't agree with, we still don't want to be sick. We want them to be well and happy and safe. And I just don't get to tell other people, though, that they should feel that exact same way about it as I'm feeling in this moment. They have their journey, they have their experiences, and it may sound to them like we're asking them to give a pass or a gift to an abuser. And so life is so complicated. We're so connected now because of the internet, because of television, because of travel. We are so connected now. We have to be aware of our intent and impact all the time, that our intention is almost always good and the impact doesn't always match the intent. And so yesterday I just felt this burden for people who are hurting and being told to put their hurt aside to be concerned for someone else's hurt that they think contributed to their hurt. And yes, philosophically, forgive, forget, bless, that's the highest, but it's also not our job to tell people to be there in any given moment. Does that make sense?
It calls upon us to be empathetic when we don't want to be, for a person that may have caused us pain in the instance of an abusive relationship, for example. I've had people in my life that I did not wish well. I didn't.
Mhm.
I couldn't. I wasn't a big enough person to do it. I don't know that I am today. What I do know
Mhm.
is philosophically and spiritually, I am called upon to dig down deep into my own empathic nature and not identify with that person's misdeeds or low character or whatever I have determined they are or are not, and be that healing presence no matter who. If I say I don't judge, then I can't judge. It's not, okay, I don't judge, but except for these people. And I think as a human being, it's a very difficult task. We were talking about hope, and what was coming to mind is in some of the most fretful days of my life, I realized that hope was far greater than love.
Mhm.
You know, the scripture talks about how love is the greatest.
I'm going to say you were butting heads right now with the Apostle Paul, but go
Of course.
ahead.
Well, he and I butt heads for a lot of reasons, but that's another just a thought. But if love is the greatest, hope is its twin sister. I'm sorry, because hope has gotten more people uh, to carry on, to not commit suicide, all kinds of all kinds of life walks that seemed impossible at the time. I look for hope. I look for signs. As you know, I've suffered chronic fatigue for about 30 years now. I was on set the other night for a film, and I woke up dead the next morning, and yesterday too. Better today, but that's my life. It's what I deal with. Why do I keep going? Well, what's the alternative? You know, what's the alternative to just give in and do nothing? You know, that's not acceptable. So if there's no cure, if there's no answer, then we have to do what we have to do, and hope keeps me going.
And you never know what anybody's going through.
Mm,
Um, Dick Cavett apparently suffered from debilitating depression, and you would have never known it on set. In fact, he would do these brilliant interviews with these brilliant people, and then just go home and turn all the lights off in his apartment, close all the
yeah,
windows, and sleep.
yeah,
Sometimes, for double-digit hours.
yeah.
But he summoned all of that, all of
Mhm.
what he needed to do his work. And I hope it's Dick Cavett. I hope I'm not disparaging. I hope I'm not telling someone else's story, putting the wrong name to it. But anyway, it's this happened, and I think to Dick Cavett. But no,
Well,
it's and so if all you're just watching is this witty, urbane person who draws these wonderful stories out of the world's most famous people, you think, wow, how great is it to be Dick Cavett? He's an
yeah,
intellect and he's charming and blah blah blah. And meanwhile, he had his own hell that no one even knew about, and maybe wasn't caused by any particular thing. Just his brain didn't make a chemical or whatever.
yeah,
Um, and so we one of the ways I think that we self-judge is that I look at what you're presenting and I compare it to my raw meat.
right.
And so now I feel extra terrible because she always seems to have it together. I don't know that she's 2 days in bed because a hard day's work just almost killed her. I don't know that.
Yeah,
And so I'm looking at today's, face beat, hair did, it's all good. And I'm like,
yeah.
why, am I such a slug? I don't know the rest of that.
That's
And
right.
so
Yeah,
when we're judging, first of all, there's favorable judgment. I mean, I judge you to be a great person. Um, uh, but of course, Miracles talks about that, about specialness,
yeah,
that if I'm making someone special, that that can go wrong too.
sure.
you know,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
because we're all just, we're just all what we are and all
Mm,
part of the whole and blah blah blah. But that is high-minded philosophy, and it doesn't always work in the moment. And even when it works, it works because it was time for it to work. I remember a deathbed moment I had with a person I had a very contentious relationship with. It was not pretty, really, ever. And my last words to this person were, I love you and I forgive you. And that was super healing. It was super healing. But if you told me 5 minutes before that I needed to do it, I wouldn't have done it. I would have been like, who are you? I would have been angry. I would have been defensive, and I would have missed that moment. So yes, it was the right thing to do, but it was the right thing and the right time for me to decide it was the right thing to do. That's what I'm worried about, is when we get really preachy at people and you need to do this, and aren't we holy when we do this? You might not be helping some folks. Even if you're right, but being right isn't always right.
No,
Sometimes
it
being
isn't.
kind is righter.
I like that. I like that. And I believe that. And we have to pick and choose, especially as ministers and people who are just wanting to be the change in the world. We've got a lot of people walking around that are ministering, even though they're not running churches, and they're trying to be the change. It calls upon us to be empaths at a time when it's difficult, because we do tend to judge. Right now, there's a lot of suffering going on. There's a financial crisis among American citizens that is happening right now, and we haven't seen the out picturing of it yet, but it's happening. You cannot take jobs away from people and expect it to turn out in financial prosperity. It will not.
Yeah.
And so 2021 is going to be yet another great challenge for a lot of families. How do we keep them in a state of hope that there will be a better day, that finances will work out, that jobs will be restored, and there will be a better day than today? How do we get through today in hope of that?
Well, the thing that I want to leave people with today, the thing that I hope people, because this is what has been super helpful to me. Sometimes things work out brilliantly, just the way I wanted to, right on time. And then I feel very, very superior. Like, oh, look, I know the principles, I'm working them. It works if you work it, and I'm working it. Yay.
Yeah.
And then other times there's a delay, a false start. It fails at first, and then it comes together. And then I still am able to put a positive spin on that. Oh, look at what all I learned. And it took longer than I wanted, but it's no less wonderful now that it's happened. And whatever. And now I have a story to tell, and I can be in solidarity with other people who struggle, because I had my own little struggle. So yeah, best when it just happens magically and instantly. Close second best is when it happens eventually, and there's this big victory, after a struggle. But sometimes it takes for almost ever, or it comes at a great cost, or it just doesn't happen. And even then, to know, to trust, to experience, to believe that there is a divine presence that is there with me in all of that has not let me go, that is experiencing it with me, in me, as me, that the experience, yeah, I want certain experiences and I get a lot of them, but my life isn't experiences. My life is life itself, and life is divine, and that life is expressing in, through, and as me. So even when it doesn't work out happily ever after, even when Prince Charming doesn't come and save the day, whatever, there is still this divine spark that nothing will put out. And that's, again, to mention our friend St. Paul, that nothing can separate us from the love of God. I usually rephrase that as nothing can separate us from the love that God is. And that's my hope. Yeah, I hope that I get my way all the time. But what my faith is that even when I don't, there is that of God still in me. And that will never let me go. I always have sacred value. I always deserve love. I'm always held in a presence that will not and cannot let me go. That is what sustains my hope. And that's the chicken that I serve, every day of my ministry. I serve it with noodles, I serve it with rice, I serve it with gravy, I serve it with toast, but that's the chicken. I'm always serving chicken, and that's the chicken that I serve. is that there's not a spot where God is not. So yeah, I want what I want when I want it, but even when that's not how it works out, God is, I am, and all is well.
Well, the reminder is you wake up in the morning, take your pulse, you know, that's God. Your heart is beating, your lungs are breathing. You didn't tell them to do that. That's the reminder that there's always hope, there's always love, there's always a better day, because something is at work intrinsically within you that is working in your favor. Otherwise, you would cease to exist.
Well, it's time for us to wrap this up. So let's do it the way we started, with these words of wisdom from whoever. No matter what, whether it turns out okay in the end or not, you carry the divine within you. It's just a thought, but I believe it's a good one. Thank you, Cindy Lippert. Thank you, everyone else. God bless you.